anytime someone is having a personal or professional struggle in any way, you start judging yourself and you feel like you're not good enough. You feel like you're not an expert or you don't have your life together. And so people are going to judge you. We could probably list a bazillion examples of what that is. And those are the times I think that it's most important to show up.
You're here to make a difference. It's our job to help you do that. Welcome to the Impact Driven Entrepreneur. We helps you to build a thriving coaching company by becoming a thriving, impactful CEO. We do that through the Impact Formula methodology. And what this means is that you're going to be selling out your offers, scaling beyond one-on-one into group programs, and leveraging a team so that you can exponentially increase your income and slash your work week. It's time to experience the true income, impact, and freedom you deserve.
Welcome back to the Impact Driven Entrepreneur. Today, I have my friend Allison Fab here. She is going to be here for one of our friend chats where we are going to be talking all about showing up despite imperfection, which is such an important topic for any of you who are trying to show up on social media, trying to show up in your content, in your business, maybe for sales situations, and doing so no matter how imperfect it feels, seems, or looks. So welcome, Allison. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good. How are you today?
Good. Do you want to tell people a little bit about what you do?
What do I do? That's a great question.
You can go plus or minus on the formality. You feel comfortable.
Here. Well, I mostly work with coaches, healers, change makers, and help people to comfortably and confidently show up as themselves imperfectly. Starts with a little bit of clarity, getting connection to other people, but then ultimately leading to confidence. So that's the gist of what I do.
Love it. So you have been such an inspiration and such a joy to watch all your content and how you literally embody this, like in every piece of content, I feel, is the messy middle and all of the stuff that you share, and you have people share their messy middle, which has always been fun and vulnerable. I've taken you up on those challenges. So what are some of the ways, I guess, like, let's back it up and just really say, like, what are some of the things that people think are imperfect or not good enough to show up in so that we have some good context for it?
Okay. Well, anytime someone is having a personal or professional struggle in any way, you start judging yourself and you feel like you're not good enough. You feel like you're not an expert or you don't have your life together. And so people are going to judge you. We could probably list a bazillion examples of what that is. And those are the times I think that it's most important to show up, not just for other people, so that other people like see that you're real and relatable, but also so that you don't go into that like black hole of the opposite of confident, like where you're very insecure and you just focus on the mess instead of like the fab part of the messy middle. Because that can just kind of take over and get you stuck. And then you feel bad because you haven't been showing up or you haven't been sharing, and it just makes for a bigger mess.
That's so true. Like, we have these layers on top of the initial, like, oh my gosh, I'm not. So you initially don't show up, and then you have these layers of like guilt, shame, and regret on top of it. And then the whole thing becomes this like, what do I do with it? Right. And a lot of people I see are apologizing for not showing up or not being consistent. What is your take on that? I'll totally tell mine after yours, but like, what is your take on it?
I think that there's a fine line and you have to figure out whether or not you're apologizing from a good place or from a negative place. Mm-hmm. Because I've done both. I think when people apologize from a very insecure place, it like takes away from all expert status. Like, that's just what people focus on and they don't even hear what else you have to say, versus you're apologizing like, look, I just did it earlier. I had some reports that I'm working on for people. And I said, hey, I'm sorry, this week had some extra messy moments in it. It's taken a little bit longer than I anticipated to get these done. I'll let you know as soon as we can schedule the call. And had I done that yesterday, because I knew yesterday I needed to send those messages, I wasn't in a good place. I was in an insecure place. And that's all that people would have focused on was like the lack, like, you haven't done this thing yet. You didn't promise me an exact time yet, but you didn't do this thing yet. You don't look like you have it all together. Not that I want to look like I have it all together, but coming from it today was like, okay, I need to acknowledge I haven't done it yet. I want them to still be excited. I'm still excited. So does that make sense?
Of course. Yeah. I was thinking more like in post to the audience, right? So in situations of post to the audience, like, I watch this all the time on YouTube channels. So like I'm Googling a YouTube video, like how I'm like obsessed with art and teaching myself art, you know this, right? Because
you're finding brand new people that you've never heard of before, and they're apologizing to you the first time you interact with them.
And I'm like, why are you apologizing for not posting a video yesterday? I don't care. Like I care about this video.
Right.
Make this video good.
Very true.
I want to know how to do my watercolor thing, please. Like,
right.
I really don't care about your video last week.
Yes.
So I think a lot of times with our audience, I just think it adds airtime. If we're thinking about it as like video and like it being a show and that kind of thing, right? Is airtime going back on things that they may not have even noticed. And I think that's like the key thing, right? Me being the person Googling them for the first time, I did not notice because I was not aware or a part of it the week before. And that's a very easy example. But there's also like, if we're looking at Facebook, for example, the feed goes so fast and you don't get notified of every person's thing. So who cares if you haven't posted in 2 weeks? Probably nobody will notice if you just start again today and recommit. And I think that recommitment has to happen to ourselves versus externally, and really ironing out like what happened and like, just working through those layers and deciding, okay, I'm sick of feeling guilt, shame, etc. on top. I'm just going to show up, or I'm going to show up at a pace that's more doable for me. I was doing weekly webinars a couple years ago, and I was like, I have to do weekly webinars. Russell Brunson says I have to do weekly webinars, therefore I have to do weekly webinars. And so a couple years ago, we did several rounds of this where we would do it, and the most we could go with weekly webinars was about a month and a half to 2 months. And I would completely burn out. I would not want to do a webinar for at least 6 months after that. And I'm like, well, duh, if I'm going to do weekly webinars, right, for about 2 months, which is about 8 webinars, and then give up for 6 months, what if I just did one webinar a month? This is a novel idea. Let me do something that I could actually keep up with. And the pace is going to be something which would work better for me. And then the average amount at the end of the day will be exactly the same, if not better, right? Because if I can sustain it for 12 months, we've now done 12 versus 8. That's an improvement, right?
Well, and you're developing that relationship the whole time versus like, here I am. Oops.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think in addition to that, right, is how is my self-talk going to be when I am like, oh my God, I can't keep up with this. This is too much. Oh my God, the freaking Facebook ads are denied again this week. What am I going to do? How am I going to fill this in 2 days? Right. And like all of that drama that builds up when you're trying to go at a pace that is not what you can go at reasonably, versus my self-talk when I'm doing it in a way that's more sustainable, right? Oh, I did the webinar. We showed up for it. We figured out and problem solved. We had 2 weeks to figure out the problem. We still did it. We figured it out. We can figure shit out, right? Like our whole entire internal conversation is going to be completely different. And that to me is so much more valuable because it's the experience of the journey, right? So at the end of the day, that's also included in why it becomes more easy to keep up with.
Yeah. You're building your self-confidence muscle all along.
Right. Okay. So how do people embrace their imperfections in either showing up, in maybe not wanting to feel embarrassed, or having like real and true like life circumstances that have caused them to not be perfect, right? And how can they show up and embrace these things as they go?
First off, I think be excited. Let's hear. Share what you're excited about. Like whatever is exciting to you in the moment. I don't care if it's a piece of bread, like something that's gonna make you happy. You're gonna just be more excited and like happy to share it. You're gonna come across completely different. And then if you happen to see yourself like sharing that, you're gonna be like, oh, okay. I guess I don't look as bad. I always recommend that people have I help people like create a visibility blueprint that has lots of different tools on there that are custom to that person and what helps them to continually show up, especially in those messy middle moments. But like have a list of things that you know will fill you back up, will help you to feel more confident. Like for me, it's always like lip color and earrings will make such a difference. Knowing those little things, like let's say it's you have a cup of coffee, whatever it is, like those are things that if you have a list of them, if you don't have them memorized, like write them down somewhere so that when you feel like crap, you can look at it. Because when you feel that way, you're not your brain isn't necessarily cooperating as well. I think another thing too, I was thinking about this before our conversation. I like to share, and I know other people do this too, share encouraging posts that are technically written to myself. But I share them like they're for other people. So like I'll look and be like, hey, what do I need to hear right now? And then I'll share that. So that's just an easy way, I think, to continue to show up, especially when you don't have the energy to do anything else. Like you're getting what you need and then you're sharing it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think also like to piggyback on the list, like the list have been like game changer for me. So like I finally figured out a good planner system that works for me, by the way.
Yay. Is it disc bound? Because I'm still in love with the disc
Yes,
bound.
it is. They're disc bound on the Happy Planner. So I basically created everything in Canva by myself and started just printing them on. Someday I'll probably share it or sell it or something. But for now, I've just been enjoying it and tweaking it by myself. But what I have learned is that list thing makes the world of difference. So I have struggled with making sure every single thing gets done, and that weighs so much on my mind. So like getting the kids out the door to school, for example, like I feel so guilty if I've forgotten a water bottle or a lunchbox or something. And I don't want to also go back and have to redo stuff, right? Like go drive over to the school, whatever. So I have found like just the list making to be super helpful. And on a days that I'm particularly fatigued and just not feeling like I can do life and adults properly, I just whip out the list. And my kids have gotten really good at just like, okay, let's go down the list. Do we have water bottles for each person? Did we all brush our teeth? Like really basic things, but like to get that mental load off has been so big. And the same thing goes for like the lunches and the dinners. Like, I'm like, what do I pack? Right? Like, how many decisions are we making every day? So then on top of that, we're asking ourselves to then be creative and come up with a post, right? When our life is already so overwhelming and coming at us in 100 different directions. So I love what you're saying about having a list of things that make us feel good so that we can get into like a high vibe, healthy mood. And I think, in addition to that is a list of go-to things that you can talk about, or I always called it like having my own back with my content is we created a content bank. So like posts that I think were great, that our audience responded well to, whatever the case may be, all go into one place. And so if I'm just not feeling it, if we have nothing to share and we're like, I don't know what we're going to write about, we have our own back. We can go into that place. Everything is there. All the hashtags are there. It's already done because we did it like maybe 6 months ago, a year ago. At this point now it's 7 years later, but that has always been super helpful for me when I have to show up, but like my situation and circumstances isn't really supportive of me sitting down to write something of substance, if that makes sense.
Totally. I reshare old stuff all the time and I'll go back. Like, I'm like, okay, this is far enough back, and I'll copy and paste. If I don't, I do have lots of the organizational stuff, like, I have it in Trello and all that stuff. But if I'm tired or not feeling fantastic, I'm probably just scrolling on my phone and I don't want to get up
and there's
go.
like, that can be your system. Like, that still is a system, right?
Right. Yeah. You've got different levels of messiness and systems.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about the messy middle, because I know that's like a big thing that you talk about. So can you explain what it is?
I think the easiest way to describe it is it's just all of the pieces of your life that aren't going the way that you want them to go.
AKA, like, I want to just say, if you're like super high achiever goal setter, that basically is like all 10 areas of life, right? You're like, I'm not reading enough. I am not. I've really wanted the spiritual practice to happen. I have only meditated twice this week.
But it's whatever you're judging yourself about. Like, that's literally what it is. Like, where do you feel insecure, and where does it feel like you can't put your best foot forward? I think that's the easiest way to describe it. And I like to refer to the fab messy middle. So like adding the fab into it, because the messy middle, like, that's, like you said, potentially all 10 areas of your life all the time, like every other minute or every other day. So it's just life. It's the real versus the highlight reel. And I talk about like reel to reel. So the real imperfect you versus just the highlight reel. And you could share highlight reels too. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think that the more that we acknowledge and talk about the non-highlight reel version, it becomes a lot easier to just be ourselves and not have that judgment and show all pieces. I mean, like, show up where you haven't showered or brushed your teeth and you have no makeup on, and maybe even tell people that I haven't brushed my teeth today.
This is my day today.
Right.
Yeah.
But acknowledging it, so it takes the pressure off of you. It also takes the pressure off of you to have it all together all the time. That's what I love about my approach to business, because I've made sure that I share a lot of that messiness, so that, when I feel extra messy unintentionally, it's okay for me to share that part if I choose to, but I don't have to. And you don't have to either.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. Yeah, I feel like the messy middle is like, for me, it's like every single area, because I have goals in every single area and I hold myself to that standard. And the fact that I haven't reached it means absolutely nothing. Right? Like, I don't know if I shared this with you, but I had Alon Davis. He's like the creator of the 90X planner. I interviewed him one time on like a summit that we ran. And he said, I was like, okay, well, like, what happens if we don't hit our goal in 90 days? Like, who the hell cares? Essentially, right? He may not have sworn, but he was like, who cares? Like, you going for the goal is the point, right? You striving for more is the point. You are where you are, but you are, miles farther just because you went for it and you made some progress towards it, compared to backsliding down and going in a different direction that was away from the goal, right? And so I think that that's really important. I always used to really struggle with goal setting, because I was like so hard on myself, like, you haven't reached 100%, or it's not perfect yet, or you're not there yet, whatever there may be defined as. But what you're saying is essentially the entire process is the point, right? Similar to a lawn, right? And our level of judgment of where we are now has no indication to where we actually are, right? Because when we step back, and this has been really eye-opening for me, like when I've gone back to, working at a hospital and things like that, right? Like, I'm like, okay, where I believe I am has zero like meaning compared to what anybody else thinks or what they think about their own situation, what they think about my situation. Like none of it is actually real. It's all just freaking made up in our heads.
It's all perception.
It's all perception. So you get to choose how you show up, what you believe in, and that embracing it. It's fun, scary, also part of it. It's just part of it.
Right. Yeah. It makes
Love
the
it.
growth process, it helps you to grow into more of who you're meant to be. If you
Yeah.
embrace it.
Yeah, exactly. And from like a really healthy place, right? Because there's growth where it's like, I must avoid failure, right? Like there's that ugly kind of like goal setting. I guess we can call it that, right? Like I'm not there, therefore I'm not good enough. That's bullshit, right? Let's embrace now here. This is perfect. You're on your way. Right?
Yeah. It's like the ugly part is like goal setting from a place of fear versus goal setting from a place of love. Like you're embracing it and choosing love as much as you can throughout the entire process versus like beating yourself up and choosing fear the entire process. You could go through the exact same process. You could make $1 million every single day and you could choose to be in fear or love. Like I guess that goes
All
back
on
to
your
perception.
perception.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So similarly, how do we accept where we are if we think that it's just not quite there? Because I think that has been like my personal life struggle.
Mine too. So I think that gratitude is really important. It's funny you say that. I was experiencing a lot of messiness last month, and I have a gratitude journal I started about 1.5 years ago, and I went back to about the same time last year and read what I wrote and realized like I had been in a very messy situation at that about the same time last year. And my perspective on it then versus my perspective on it now, I was like, oh, I've really grown. Like this is great. It still feels like crap, but look at how great this is. Like look at the growth that has occurred. So finding gratitude and then also like documenting it in some way so that you can reference how far you've come, either how far you've come or that it's possible for you to do it. Like you've done it in the past, you can do it again. If you're not doing it now, like I think that's key for both of those different perspectives.
Yeah, I think gratitude is huge. I haven't sat down, but now you've got me super curious. I'm like, I wonder what all my journals say from the olden times. So I did a major declutter. I like got rid of over half of my stuff over the summer. I moved into a tiny apartment on purpose. I literally had the choice between a 2,500 square foot house, maybe like around 2,700, but whatever.
That's a
Minor
lot of
details.
space. It's a lot of
Pretty big.
space. Yes.
Versus this apartment, which is around 800 to 900. Okay. And at the time, I kept decluttering like a maniac. And I was like, decluttering. And I'm like, why do I keep decluttering? And then this place just gets filled with more stuff. Like, I don't understand what's happening. And so I had to I decided on purpose, I'm like, I need to make my container smaller so that I can get to the root cause of what's happening and like get rid of a lot more to make a really significant difference in my house. And like, I feel like I was just not having peace of mind at home because everything was piled up everywhere. None of the corners of my house were clean, organized. Like it was messy. I'm not a hoarder. Let's just, but it's like kid clutter, you're like, how did 20 toys get in here? I don't know. And they just magically will take toys out of every area. They're just magical like that. So anyway, I decided to cut back and just have half of my stuff. And in that process, what I realized is I learned that I didn't believe I had enough of things. Therefore, I wasn't enough. And unless I had a lot of things, I didn't have enough. And that was like a really deep realization. Right now, like you could literally walk through my house. Probably the messiest thing you'd see is these things right here. But like everything else looks kind of like that, right? Like just very, like there's not a lot in it. And this is this is a small apartment to have like such open space, right? So at any point, the reason I'm sharing all of this is because when you think you don't have enough, you are always wanting more. And so it's in that gratitude and realizing that of what you have, that you can come to terms with that. And so embracing that within the process has been really, really helpful for me. And in that context, in the context of minimalism, of like having less stuff, has really opened my eyes, because it was an area that was such a struggle. Like cleaning up, sorry, this is such a tangent, but like cleaning up all the stuff on a daily basis that I would have to clean up to make my house be kind of livable. I realized I was just doing maintenance work, right?
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
was never really getting down into like the nooks and crannies of anything. And so the same thing happens when we are overwhelmed, right? We're just trying to keep up that hamster wheel of like, oh my God, we just have to do these 20 billion things. And then we realize we're never like really making significant progress forward. And so I think stopping to reevaluate and question the entire system and deciding like how you want that to run, and then being super intentional about every single thing you put back in. So only putting back in what you want. So all that is basically to say about embracing imperfections, is to say that when we can look at how we're functioning in relationship to our goals, and that we might not be perfect 100% of the time, but we can set up a process, a system, or a way of doing things that works better for us. If we just take everything out, reevaluate it, and put only back in what we feel is critical. Being grateful for all of it has been huge. And then I think just general, like there's been a lot of work I've done on just generally shedding all of the ego and my relationship to why I feel, compelled to look a certain way, be a certain way. All of that work has been huge. I think I did share with you how like at one point I had a coach who told me you have to have like that you're an international best-selling author on your title, and that you're certified in this and that and the other thing. And I worked with a coach, and so I had this whole thing be my introduction. I'm international, blah, 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 blah. And the shedding of the ego came when a coach told me, no, you're Mariana, period, the end. And I had to then decide how I wanted to show up without any title or introduction. And that was really fun, because it was, again, the same process, right? It was remove all that shit. How are you going to show up as you? And that, that process of, oh, right, I do forget stuff. Oh, right, I do need checklist. Otherwise, my brain can't work. Oh, right, I do need to have my back sometimes. Like all of that process, that's removing the ego.
And it makes you relatable too.
Yeah.
Which is what people actually want. Like, they want to know that there's somebody who's like them, who forgets stuff, who needs the list, who gets overwhelmed. I had to, laugh when you said overwhelmed.
Oh my gosh.
All too well that is my go-to emotion. But that, has those experiences in their life. I was going to say struggles, but it's not necessarily a struggle. Like it's part of your life experience, and yet you're still successful in X, Y, and Z.
Right.
That's ultimately what people want. I think they want to know that somebody who's like them can do it. So that means they can do it too.
Yeah. And I love that you say that, is like, just being more, it makes you more relatable. I never even, I mean, from the perspective of other people, I have never really thought about it, but I think for me, it just helps me feel better. Like you're saying, sharing the imperfection, because then when you really feel like a hot mess, you don't have to lie about it.
Yes. It takes off the pressure, right?
There's no more pressure. Yeah.
That's been really important to me in my life a lot of times, but especially when times are extra messy.
Yeah. Love it. So where can people find out more about you, follow you, look at all of your amazing stuff that you have?
So on Instagram and Facebook, I'm Allison Fab, 2 L's and an I. So you can find me there. Or I also did actually, my website has been fabover.com, like makeover, but fab over. So that domain is still there, but I also got allisonfab.com. So
Hey.
yeah. And I think I did the fabmessymiddle.com too. So
Fun.
if you look up Fab Messy Middle or Allison Fab, you should be able to find me somewhere.
It will come up. Yeah.
Yes.
Love it. Yeah. You've been doing this for a long time. I think we met, was it like 2017, 2016-ish?
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
Yeah. Around. So
It's been a while.
it has
All
been a
the
while.
life experiences throughout the years, right?
Yeah. Beautiful. So thank you so much for coming and doing a friend chat and
Thank
talking
you.
about all our behind the scenes. I even showed my mess.
I could pick the phone up and show my mess if you'd like as well. I did organize a little bit, but I've got planners galore, disc-bound planners and notebooks
Disc-bound
galore.
planners.
I love them because you can make it your own for whatever
Yeah,
you need.
that's what I love about it. Yeah.
Which is important to me. It's all about customization.
Yeah. Super fun. Well, I have my canvases because as I shared with you, I am going to paint something that's going to go on these bare walls.
Paint away.
You have inspired me with your beautiful paintings.
Yeah, thanks. It's fun to make it personal and add a
Yeah.
pop of color because
Yeah.
kind of like that.
Super
But that's
fun.
me. That's again what feels like adds my fabometer. You got to figure out what fills yours.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode, and click the like, hit the subscribe, and click on the bell so that you never miss an episode and help our channel to grow and reach more people. I hope you have an impactful day, and I will see you in the next one.